Welcome back, Holotable Heroes, to another Galaxy of Heroes video with me, your boy Scribe. We are working our way through Conquest right through into Sector 5 now, the final sector, before we tackle the global feats. If you haven't already seen my video guides on the previous sectors, and you need a little bit of help, I have an entire playlist dedicated to the Conquest for Darkside Vision Ray. Let's break this down. Here we are in wonderful Sector 5 then, the last sector that we shall endeavour to beat with the cheesiest of strats. The feats in this sector are thus: critical power, gain critical damage up 50 times, a very, very easy feat to get done. Fleet-footed, evade at least 100 attacks in battles that you won. It is important that you get that last qualifier, guys. You have to win the battle. Now you can do this gradually over time with characters with foresight or high evasion characters or blinding enemies, but you do have to win the battle for it to count. I've got some wonderful cheeses for this though, don't you worry. Power of Witches, which is very close to the power of many. Everybody's favourite Star Wars TV series. Win 10 battles with both Morgan Elsbeth and the Great Mothers surviving. We'll have you a few options for that. And then True Empire. We need to win with a full squad of Imperial Remnants. Terrific. Before we begin then, let's talk data discs, everybody's favourite thing. The most important thing that you have here is weak point. Everybody loves a bit of weak point. I'm using Entrenched, Ability Fatigue, Ruthless Swiftness, Leader's Resolve, Ability Fatigue, Caustic Emissions, and another weak point. It ramps up your damage insanely well. Highly recommend you guys get a Ruthless Swiftness. That is very useful for some of the feats we're about to do, and Leader's Resolve does make life in general quite a lot easier. Now this isn't the only way to get it done, and you can swap out one of these weak points for something like Voluntary Vanguard to bring the taunt over to a useful character, or you can throw this all in the bin and use something amazingly powerful like Deadly Catalyst. If you get Deadly Catalyst, oh my days, baby boo, we're gonna be flying through, don't you know? Anyway, without further ado, let's look at some delicious Gouda cheese. Crit damage up, we're looking for a crew node and we're using CLS. Very important, do not use anything that's going to ramp your damage. No critical tactics, no weak point. You do not want to do damage here, all you want to do is survive. This is also a very important place for you to have Ruthless Swiftness so that you can constantly gain lots and lots of turn meter. Now I got pretty lucky with this one, truth be told. I think they actually defeat my CLS, which is actually invaluable because, you know, that just means there's less damage output on my team. Kind of useful. Make sure you do this on a challenge path node if you can. Later on in the conquest path is better for you because the enemies are gradually getting tougher and tougher. Don't know why I used that AoE there. That's just going to ramp my Chupio's offense. I guess I was just having a good time. At this point though, you get it down to just crew, hit auto and go make yourself a cup of tea. Maybe talk to the wife, the kids, phone your mum. Just touch base, catch up with your correspondence, and maybe balance that checkbook just a little bit, because all we're doing is having Han Solo pass crit damage up to the entire team. Every time he does that, AoE crit damage up. You've got C-3PO over there that's going to be reducing his cooldowns all the time as well, so it just means more uses of that crit damage up. Leave it on auto, you'll come back at the end of that timer having finished all of your crit damage ups with absolutely zero issues. Wonderful, wunderbar, fantastisch. Absolutely love it. Let's crack on with the next feat. Next up, I'm going to go in with a cheese that goes against Imperial Troopers. This will work against anything that has got a lot of turn meter generation or lots of assists. I know this seems really weird and funky right now, guys. Why are we using Padme lead? Why have we got Armorer and Nihilus and why is what there? It's kind of weird, right? Kind of weird indeed. Well, and we've also got, for the astute of you that'll know, we've got Voluntary Vanguard putting the taunt on Hermit Yoda. We need to make sure that Hermit Yoda has the most maximum health and protection combined out of everybody in the team. That will put Voluntary Vanguard on him, so he will have that taunt on him. The thing about it is there's a little bit of funkiness with Hermit Yoda. He is actually supposed to start the battle stealthed, and he cannot actually be hit whilst he's stealthed. So even with this direct focus kind of pointing it over to him, you still can't really hit him. And I've still got things like the I can't remember what it's called now, but the ability point damage that's going to place dots on the enemy every time they take turns. I've just got one of those. Leave this run, and you will get all of your evades. Just watch Hermit Yoda. Dodge. Dodge. Let's go. Okay, come on. Let's go. Dodge, dodge, dodge. And dodge, and dodge, dodge, and dodge, and dodge, and dodge, and dodge, and dodge, and give me some more dodges. Come on, dodge, dodge. You get the picture, guys. Hermit Yoda is as slippery as an eel. You can't really touch him and they can't hit anybody else, and the enemy is just slowly dying thanks to all the turns they're taking. It's kind of funny. You'll get a big chunk of your evasions, potentially even all of them. You could even remove the damage discs from this one, the data discs that are applying damage over time every time the enemy takes a turn, if you really wanted to, and that would mean that they don't die. Eventually your Nihilus will start taking turns and you will be able to slowly but surely defeat the enemies. This one's kind of a no-brainer. It's not, in my opinion, the best team to use, but it's definitely a very, very useful team to have in your back pocket if you don't have the likes of GL Ray, which is what we're going to look at next. Next up, we're taking the same principles. Go against a team with a lot of turn meter generation. I'm talking about your Imperial Troopers, your Mon Mothma teams, that sort of thing. You need Rey, JTR, I'm using Cal Kestis over here, and Watts Tamboran Armorer. Basically, we're placing the tank tech over on JTR. That's going to force her to taunt. Next up, what we need to get is that triple stack of Beskar armor, preferably on JTR. That means she can't be crit, which means she can't lose inspiration. Enemies that are gaining turn meter against a GL Ray team with characters that have inspiration will ramp their mastery, and JTR and Cal Kestis both have got evasion mastery. What this means is essentially it will get to a point where they cannot touch JTR or Cal Kestis provided they are inspired, because we've got too much mastery ramping up that evasion. So there we go, got that triple stacks of Beskar armor over on JTR. That means she cannot be crit at all. So you'll notice soon enough that once we get the inspiration on Rey, which I don't think we have just now, on JTR, sorry, I don't think we've got it just yet, she will actually start to ramp mastery very, very quickly, because this enemy team is gaining turn meter constantly. You'll notice that it's on Cal right now, so if you notice any AoEs, we'll probably completely miss Cal. Just completely miss him, because they've gained so much bonus turn meter that he's just ramped his mastery through the roof. JTR at this point, I think, doesn't actually have inspiration, because we need GL Ray to take turns to start passing it out there. But believe me when I say it's easy enough to get done. I'm not going into ult with Rey. Very important that you do not ult with Rey, because you'll just defeat the entire enemy team. You only want a Lifeblood and maybe basic with Rey, okay? So there we go, Lifeblood. I think this is where we got inspiration over there on Armorer. So unfortunately here, we're getting inspiration on JTR last. It's really not ideal. Not ideal, but it's not the worst thing in the world. We do eventually get over to it, and we're at 3 minutes and 10 seconds right now. I will show you the juice when it lands, but this is a very useful way of getting things done. Specifically, if you can get that triple stacks of Beskar out on JTR nice and early. So I think, yeah, she's got inspiration now. She can't lose it. So watch how quickly she goes from being hit to just dodging everything. So she's getting hit occasionally. Oh, but dodge. Oh dear. Oh dear, I don't think our enemy can hurt us anymore. What a shame. And you can see Rey is also ramping mastery, and she's gaining offense. So that's how we actually win the battle. Dodge. Just call her the Jammy Dodger. Just call her the Jammy Dodger, because they can't touch this. She is MC Hammer of the Star Wars universe, but so is Cal Kestis, truth be told. They can't touch him either. You'll see he's dodging every single AoE. So yeah, all you do is let this time out. Well, don't let it time out, because you do actually need to win the battle. Drag it out as long as possible. You'll get all 100 evades very, very easily, because look at the amount of assists that these guys are doing. They're assisting constantly. And then when you're ready, you can just go into ult, or you can whirlwind with Rey, and you'll clear the board very, very quickly. Make sure that the enemy doesn't have their endless ranks buff, that triple chevron up blue arrow. It's gone now, because otherwise they will revive. You have to be careful of that. So just try and drag this battle out as long as possible, but make sure you win. Let's go and see how far I get it to. Looks like we at least bring it down to the very last minute of the battle. I'm just making sure. I'm like, oh yeah, sure, let's place the healing tech on Rey, just so we can recover the health and do more lifebloods. But the enemy is also dying from dots and things like that too. So it looks like we're not going to have any issues at all here. JTR, being that dodgy queen that she is just a wonderful thing to see. Just wonderful. Yeet! Easy money, baby. And that is some beautiful Gorgonzola. Now, we need to win battles with Imperial Remnants as well. I'm doing this against the bonus node at the end. You can actually make 2 full teams if you've got enough depth over here. You've got DTMG with a Gideon lead. I'm taking in Dark Trooper, Death Trooper, and TIE Fighter Pilot, just sought by Imperial Remnants. This lets you have a relatively good team still for Captain Enoch, if you happen to have them. I'm doing this on the bonus node at the end of the sector. DTMG is really good for survivability. He has got a mass revive, he's got great defense, and you will slowly outpace the opponent, especially if you've got that ability punishing data disc that places damage over times on the enemy every time they take a turn, because that Grandmaster Yoda will just take turn after turn after turn after turn. So every time he's doing that, he's just getting dots and stuff like that. It's all very well and good. You can see we survived pretty well here. These are all sort of Relic 3 to Relic 7, I want to say. Yeah, I think so. Relatively good on that bonus node there. You can also split your Imperial Remnants by going through the Captain Enoch route. Over there, I'm using Enoch with Death Trooper, Peridia, Night Trooper. We're throwing in Stormtrooper and Scout Trooper, I believe. So this team is also very, very good. You don't really actually want to have Voluntary Vanguard on Captain Enoch. You'd really want it on someone like Stormtrooper, but I guess my Stormtrooper just isn't modded well at all. This team has still got a significant amount of damage, but I do understand that most players are not going to have the likes of Captain Enoch, Death Trooper, Peridia, Night Trooper, unless you're really focusing on those assault battles. So if you do not have those guys available to you, just try to make one really strong team under DTMG. You can do it with a Moff Gideon leadership as well, but it really isn't as good. But this should get you a couple of battles. Just do it slowly over the course of Conquest. Get maybe 1 or 2 battles in with each team each day towards the end of it, and you should be done in, like 5 days or something like that. Smashing. We also need teams that will have Great Mothers and Morgan Elsbeth surviving. This is a little tricky for me because mine are maxed out. I'm going against the bonus node here with Beskar Armor Mando, Dash, and Cat. And what we're looking to do here is try and defeat this enemy team as quickly as possible. Obviously, their team is just taking turn after turn after turn. If you've got Voluntary Vanguard and your Morgan Elsbeth isn't high, obviously she's not going to be taking that brunt of damage. I'm just looking to go Whistling Birds, AoE from Dash, and then pass the turn meter back over to Dash with Commander Ahsoka Tano's Leap, and then you should be able to actually just insta-kill the entire board with Whistling Birds, because Whistling Birds really are just that good. Now you might want to mess around with turn orders a little bit, make sure Bam is the fastest, Dash is the second fastest, and then Cat is the third fastest, so that you're able to go straight into Whistling Bird stance, AoE, and then Cat passes the turn over to Dash immediately to clear the board. Naturally, that isn't the only team that I'm going to be giving you. Maul lead with Watt and Kandris is also very, very good, because we're able to trigger the frenzy on Maul very quickly. There is a General Kenobi in this team, so Maul is going to start with 5 stacks of Seething Rage. I can't believe I completely missed it when I was actually recording the footage, but we all know how good Maul works when you've got Weak Point available to you. He will do absolute crazy damage very, very quickly because of all the dots on the enemy team. Kandris is just helping exacerbate that issue for the enemy. You should be able to wipe it out completely before the enemy takes too many turns. Got to be a little bit careful about that, Anakin. Not a whole lot we can do about that, but of course the very first hit from Seething Rage from Maul, you should be able to ignore Taunt and go after Anakin. Hopefully do enough damage to put him in his tracks. Another option that we can use, I'm doing all of this testing on the bonus node at the end, is using General Skywalker with 5s and Rex. There is a crazy amount of damage on this team, and of course General Skywalker is a Don and will have a permanent taunt up, so you won't even need Voluntary Vanguard to make this one work. You obviously want to get rid of the likes of Anakin first. He is the biggest danger, and Gas should be ramping up damage really quickly here, simply because the enemy just gains so many buffs. They've got so many buffs, and that of course results in Gas gaining and the rest of the 501st gaining a boatload of offense, as you can see. So all we're going to do, like I said, try and get rid of that Anakin if you can. Anakin first, because he is the dangerous one. Maybe save your form up from Rex for when Gas is sitting, to just make sure that you get Gas back up on his feet, lickety-split, as quickly as possible. Once Gas is stand back up, watch this now. Boop! 870,000 damage there, I think, on a basic. That's really not so bad. Let's see what Gas does on his next attack. Like I said, the damage here is absolutely crazy. Weak Point is a very strong data disc. 828,000 there against Snips. Gas not pulling his punches. I changed up my data discs here to something really stupid just to mess around. Basically, I was filling it with caustic emissions, ability fatigues, thermal exhausts, ability exhausts, to just try and fill the enemy with dots, burning, ability block, and thermal detonators, just to see what happens. And it is actually, it's a little bit funny. I will admit, it is a little bit funny. The enemy takes a turn and then they suddenly regret all of their life decisions. let's go check that one out. So I do this with a Darth Revan team. I took in Malak and I take in Sith Empire Trooper just to give myself a pre-saunting tank, and just watch what happens over here. Like, they've got 6 thermal detonators. Grandmaster Yoda has 15 thermal detonators on him after a turn, and then Darth Revan's leadership triggers Deathmark. He's gone. They're feared. Thermal detonators coming out of every orifice right now. It's kind of weird. I'm not saying this is a good data disk setup, but it is rather humorous. It is rather humorous, I have to admit. I'm starting to wonder now if I could make this work long term. Maybe if this worked with Amplify Agony, we would have something quite funny. Those thermal detonators all blowing up at once does make me giggle. And that Ayla Secura does crazy good damage, I have to be honest. But this is something that you can play around with if you've got the data discs. I don't really recommend it though. The team works. Alrighty, now that we've gone over some of the teams to cover off the basic feats of the game, you know, we've got that crit damage up, we've got that evasion mastery up, we've got the Morgan Elsbeth and Great Mother's teams, and the battles with Imperial Remnants. Let's take a look at the mid-sector boss. That is a Darth Revan team. It's got no Malgus, it's got no Malak, but it is nothing to laugh at. 2 feats that we got to do here: win without using any attackers, and then win with Shin Hati surviving. So, let's talk about it. To win with Shin Hati surviving in the mid-sector boss node, I decided to go with a Gas 501st team. The reason for this is because the damage is quite frankly insane. Just target Darth Revan for your very first hit with Gas, and you'll be surprised at how quickly he drops with this data disk setup. Of course, you do want to try and get back up on your feet. You may lose Shin Hati if your Gas drops. I didn't in this instance because they didn't even attack her, but as soon as he stands up, the whole team just melts. How good is that? For the no attackers feat, I decided to use the Imperial Remnants team, and I used a consumable to boost their speed. I did that just to try and get the ball rolling. Again, you kind of want to go out for the gas first. I didn't do that in my run, so that's kind of silly of me, but there we go, it is what it is. You want to try and take out, not gas first, sorry, Darth Revan. Apologies, it's been a long day. You want to try and take out Darth Revan as quickly as possible, because Darth Revan will completely upset the order of things, because he will start destroying people and the death mark gets out and it all looks terrible. The other side of it as well is because the enemy will take a bonus turn after defeating one of the enemies, they may well just full-on interrupt you and it could go sideways very, very quickly. So that's another reason why you want to get rid of Darth Revan as soon as possible. So that's 600k out of Piet over there. Ultimately though, it doesn't matter if you 3-star this node, you just need to beat with no attackers. Now what I will say is if you've got GLs like GL Leia, who's a tank, or if you've got JML, who's also a tank, those would be a lot easier for you to get these done. Especially JML, you could go in with just support and healers and tank Jedi and just use your calls to assist to get rid of the enemy Darth Revan team very, very quickly. Leia can do it with tanks and supports as well without being too bothered. Let's look at the boss node, and it's Gungans, and these guys are nuts. These Gungans are crazy. Very, very powerful. 2 feats that we need to get: win with only using light side characters, and then win with Baylan's Skull in your squad. Note, you do not need to use a full mercenary team, and you also do not need to have Baylan's Skull survive. Not that that will be an issue, because I imagine anybody who's got Baylan's Skull had that one opportunity to wail on all their mercenaries, and obviously they would take Baylan's Skull up. So I will show you both, but I don't expect many people to actually get this Baylan's Skull team done. Alright? Cool, let's start off with a light side victory. Defeating the Gungans with a full team of light sides, I highly recommend using a Phoenix team. So I'm going over here with the Captain Rex team under Hera with Kanan, Chopper, and Sabine Wren. This is generally a pretty good team against Gungans. Normally what you want to try and do is just spam specials and save that Chopper Dispel to get rid of the taunt on Phalanx. But if you've got weak point, you can actually ramp damage insanely quickly. Enough so to ignore the fact that the enemy's got like 400% defense. I still don't recommend it. Try to get rid of that shield generator because the enemy gets so many buffs from having the shield genny up anyway, so you do want to get rid of it. When you get the opportunity, of course, just use your specials against it and you'll do a mass assist and the shield generator will drop like a fly. After it's gone, you'll notice with those weak points, all those attacks out of turn, all the debuffs that you're putting on, enemies will melt. Good times. Baylan's Skull then. This is probably a guide for people that do not need help. I will be honest, I imagine if you've got Baylan's Skull, you're probably absolutely fine here, but I'm just going to show you how I did it. I just went in with a Traya lead, threw in Malak, Nihilus, and Baylan, and just, you know, played it out. Traya is pretty good against Gungans in general. You can just go ahead and isolate the Phalanx, take out the shield generator. Do not try to use the insta-kill from Nihilus until the shield generator is gone because you won't be able to insta-kill anybody anyway, thanks to Jar Jar Binks. So just focus on taking out the shield generator and everything shall be hunky-dory. Not quite sure, but it looks like we don't have Isolate on Phalanx. Did we just not take the turn yet? We didn't take the turn yet. That's just me paying all of the attention in the world. Baylan is also pretty cool, because, you know, I mean, he's Baylan. Generally speaking, I had a hard time trying to get mercenaries to win versus the Gungans. So I was as surprised as you are, guys. It didn't look like a good time. I was not having fun with it. This was far more reliable, far more dependable, and generally speaking, not too much brain thought required. Just keep that Isolate on the Phalanx, take out the shield generator, and systematically destroy the rest of those Gungans. Those frog-faced, blue-balling, motor-boating sons of guns. We don't even like their kind round here, do you know what I'm saying? And there goes the shield generator, and now we can finally start yeeting people out. I think I decide to annihilate on Jar Jar at the start because, let's face it, you probably had it coming. So let's see. Come on, Nihilus. Nihilus, I know you want to do it. And this is what I'm talking about. These Gungans, they just take turn after turn after turn after turn after turn after turn. I'm like, Jesus, Gungans, chill. Relax. Relajada. Tranquilo. But, hey, eventually we'll start getting around to those Annihilates with Nihilus. He's going to ramp up a lot of stats thanks to absorbing all the max health, even though the max health is largely diminished from the enemy. But you get the gist. At this point, it's pretty much game over. Let's skip ahead. As you can see, it's still a bit of a long battle because, you know, the enemy is just... They're really tanky. How much did Nihilus just do on a basic? That's kind of crazy. They tank a lot of damage. AoE, 43k over there, taking out that Phalanx. How much damage are we doing right now? I'm kind of curious. Oh, well, Annihilate does infinite damage, I guess. And that, ladies and gentlemen of the tribe, is going to about do it. All sectors have now been completed. My next video will be covering over the global feats, and trust me, we've got a couple of doozies in there as well. I want to make sure that you do hit that like button and subscribe before you disappear, because I put in too much blood, sweat, and tears into these videos over the last couple of days that I've lost sleep. Alternatively, I'll see you all in the next video. Peace out, and may the Force be with you.